Hello there, welcome to Nerd.World. In this latest episode in the Captain series, today we're going to be looking at Captain Rudolf Rudy Ransom, the commanding officer of the USS Equinox, the defiant little science vessel that got stranded in the Delta Quadrant and made some questionable moral decisions while he was there on behalf of his crew in order to get home just that little bit faster. Before we get started, if you like this channel, any of the content on it, please like, share, subscribe and comment down below as it helps the channel grow. And I seem to have been hit by the YouTube algorithm recently, unsubscribing and various other things, snapping at my videos. So if you can, like, share, subscribe, that'd be great. With that said, let's get started. Ransom was a Starfleet officer in the latter part of the 24th century. He earned his captain's pins by making first contact with the Iridians, a species that the Federation had previously believed to be extinct. He was then assigned command of the USS Equinox, a Nova-class science vessel. Once given command of this vessel, he earned a reputation for being a competent, diligent commander and also a very excellent scientist. In tactical situations, he was known to use effectively misdirection and escape and evade tactics rather than favouring any kind of direct confrontation where possible. Instances that were cited by Captain Janeway included him evading a Romulan warbird by flying into the atmosphere of a gas giant and playing a game of cat and mouse with the Klingon bird of prey until the Klingons gave up after 3 days of trying to hunt him down inside of a nebula. This would be a hallmark of his career, effectively trying to avoid difficult situations by trying to find an easier way out rather than maybe confront the reality of the situation that he's in. This quirk of his personality may have served him well in a combat situation, meaning he wouldn't risk his ship and his crew in needless battle, but when stranded in the Delta Quadrant, as his fated little vessel would end up being, it wasn't a personality trait that was going to do well there. Whereas the crew of Voyager decided to uphold the principles of the Federation, continue to explore space and expand their knowledge, although at first this was his goal. After an encounter with the Cretonan Guard, he would lose 39 members of his crew, which was approximately half the crew complement of a Nova-class science vessel. The ship would never recover from this loss, and that singular event would guide all future decisions that they would make in the Delta Quadrant thereafter. After this event, over the next 5 years, Ransom and his crew of the Equinox would realize just, unlike Voyager or another larger vessel, the Nova-class ship was just not equipped for a journey as long and as dangerous as the one that they were undertaking. Replicators went offline pretty quickly, conserving power. The vessel had no holodecks for recreation, affecting crew morale and psychology. A series of small steps took them to make fateful decisions. They encountered as well very little luck, only encountering a handful of peaceful species, but the majority of the time encountering hostility. The only silver lining noted by Captain Ransom was that they hadn't seen so much as a single cube since being in the Delta Quadrant, considering it's the home quadrant of the Borg, and the Borg would likely be interested in the Federation vessel stranded in the Delta Quadrant. He was very fortunate not to have encountered such a vessel, as it would have likely led to their assimilation. Finally, things came to a head in 2376. When their dilithium reserves were depleting, the vessel limped its way to an M-class planet, now pretty much unable to leave. Luckily, this world was inhabited by a race called the Ankari, who were willing to assist them, make a few repairs, give them some supplies, help them get on their way. And to bless their journey, the Ankari revealed a device that summoned neogenic life forms that they considered to be good luck spirits to bless the journey of the Equinox. Ransom realized that these creatures were made of pretty much pure antimatter, and that they warranted further study. They would summon one of the creatures, but not realizing that it was not able to survive very long in our realm, it died. believing simply it was already dead, what else would you do, they made modifications to their warp core to power it using the creature. This allowed them to reach warp speeds that they had previously not been able to achieve and cover huge distances. They would continue summoning these creatures in order to kill them and use them as a power source. Whether they were aware at first that these creatures were sentient beings or not is unknown, but they did then begin coming under almost constant attack from these creatures. It wasn't until the arrival of the USS Voyager, finding a crippled, nearly destroyed Equinox and Ransom unconscious on his bridge, that they were saved. Realizing that the crew of Voyager and Captain Janeway would not understand what he had done, Ransom formulated a plan to keep it all secret and steal a device that was developed by the Voyager crew to shield his vessel better and capture more of the life forms. Not for study, but for conversion into more fuel. When Janeway realized what he was doing, he abandoned her ship to be attacked by the neogenic life forms, perhaps believing that she would be able to survive, and he also stole the EMH and abducted 7 of 9, needing her to unlock security codes that she'd placed in his ship to prevent them using the modified warp core. He used the Doctor, after removing his ethical subroutines, to perform invasive surgeries on her cortical node to try and extract the information when 7 was unwilling to provide that. Eventually, though, after a few armed engagements with Voyager, a mutiny from his own crew, he began to realize just how far he had fallen. He had devolved into practically a savage, committing crimes against humanity, betraying the Federation and its principles. In his last final act, he saved his crew by beaming them to Voyager. His crippled vessel on the verge of being destroyed, he flew at a safe distance away from Voyager, and in perhaps the last honourable act of a fallen man, went down with his ship. His crew would be integrated into Voyager's crew, but were all reduced in rank to crewmen and later faced charges when they returned back to Earth for their crimes against the neogenic life forms and betraying the Prime Directive. Overall, Captain Ransom, a fascinating character that shows that as much as humanity think they've come so far by the 24th century, at our core, we're still just people. And although he did ultimately die honourably, if it was not for the intervention of Janeway and the crew of the Voyager, if they hadn't have been killed by the neogenic life forms before Voyager arrived, they would have continued doing their cruel experiments, all for the selfish gain of getting home a little faster. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please like, share, subscribe and comment down below, as it all helps the channel. Please check out my second channel, Nerd.World Films. There's a playlist I'm currently doing on there where I'm talking about all the Star Trek movies. Next one coming up is Star Trek 3, around the time that this video has been released. And with that said, bye bye.